kind of a distance, this kind of a no complaints.
Nitya Chaitanya, my guru, used to say a quote particularly about this thing. He said, you may have heard about Thackeray, the great British writer. He wrote that he was a Mason. If he completely lost faith on humanity, he would shoot himself. He was keeping a gun with his bag every time. But he was a rich man. He led a very comfortable life. The license to hold that gun is only with the Dostoevsky, because he had all kind of suffering in his personal life. But he has a flower for the humanity in his life. That's the difference. So after going through these kind of torments and pain, suddenly you feel that the life is very, very precious. I wrote about that moment in this biography. A particular moment I am witnessing a particular small home, enlightened by the sunlight, and suddenly I had a cosmic vision through that home, and I felt a spiritual resurrection through that experience. On that day, I wrote about it experience. So now I can say in this days that for the past 35 years, I was never sad for a single day. I never spent a single day useless in the throughout life. 35 years ago, I decided I won't be unhappy for the rest of my life. I won't waste any single day. I began to write my diaries at that time. While going through the diaries now, I said only few days. I know that this day I don't read anything, or I did not write anything. Almost every day I spend my life fruitfully, happily. So this is my life. So even today, on 18th this month, I started to write a new novel. I started it in Bengaluru, and it is about Gunatya, the great epic writer of Paisajika language. And he lived in a place called the Pradishtanagura. The new name of that place is Paitan. So I am starting today from here directly to Paitan, and I am going to live there for a few days, and I will come back. So this is my life. So I am very, very pleasant, happy person, because I have a resurrection from all that.
And all this, whatever the agony, whatever the experience you had in your life, I think you're so confident. And in particularly page 136, you talk about you as a writer in a very confident way. And I want to read it because you have to buy this book. Most of the modernist Tamil and Malayalam writers will not last more than 50 years. I'll be there forever. I love this. And one more sentence, later I will mention it. And the confidence which comes from that, all those agony and pain he went through within his 27 years of his life, if right. So, can we talk about first men or women in this book? What's your choice? What's your choice?
The book starts with men.
Let's talk about men in these books then. And Sangeetha, in particularly her blog, she said about your dad. If you permit me, I'll continue. Okay. He's a very interesting character for me. Very, very interesting. There's a love triangle in his family, and somewhere he looks like a very abusive father. But when Jayamohan was a kid, when he was struggling for his life, he did everything to save this kid. Yeah. He did everything. And there I can see an ocean of love and on the other hand, next morning he shouts at you and his wife, your mother. And can you now? I'll ask a very simple question to you. Do you still crave to hug your father?
Yeah, really, very much. Actually, I consider empty Vasudevan Nair as my father even now. Because I longed for his touch also. He never touched anybody. He never smiled on anybody. But I know he had a deep love for me and he had great respect for me. He asked his assistants to invite me for writing and really and comment on his writing and come and speak on his birthday events. But he never talked to me. He never looked at me. He never smiled at me. That's the character of those generation of Malayalis.
Tamil writer is saying, record it.
And see, in this book, you may read an event that my father gave me few instructions about my life.
Three
Yeah. Even now, I feel that he is the only person who understood me perfectly, and to the core, he has the perfect understanding. And see, few years ago, I visited Las Vegas. Almost every close friend of mine insisted me to play a few minutes with that gambling. I said, I know. I never touched that machine. I never touched a lottery ticket even now. I never touched the lottery ticket. I don't even touch it because it is against him. I am his son and I adore his memories. And he had a very, very strong negative impact on me once. But after I became elder than him. See, now he died at the age of 61 and I'm 62 now. See, he is younger than me now. So after I became elder than him, I started to write about him. Now, in my writing, Sri Babulayan Pillai is a pleasant, funny, and a childish man in my writing. So I created a pleasant father from my memories now.
Sangeetha, when I went through this book, I understood this. I'm sure that he now also wants to hug his father. What you felt when you translated it? Your thought on it?
So what I felt, what struck me immediately was that he did not judge his father. That was something which was quite remarkable for me. That there's no judgment. He just narrates it. And it also was a little surprising for me. How can someone narrate some events that are so close to you, that are so raw, that actually, draw blood from your skin? How can you write about something like that without any judgment? In fact, I wanted to ask Sir when I meet him once, because at that time when I was translating it, we had never met. I wanted to ask him, was it because you are a born storyteller and you were watching it as a story that, somewhere the distance is there, or else was it because it was acquired at a later stage?
No, I always believe that sons have no right to judge his father. So no son should judge his father. He cannot imagine the position of a father while he is still considering him as a son. So that's not my case. I believe it. I won't judge my father. I won't judge my fathers.
I understand, sir.
And coming back to all other men in this book, I think they're very weak.
Yeah.
Is it so?
Maybe. Yeah, not so. But while comparing with Sri Babulayan Pillai, others are very weak. Because he had a very strong impression on me. And he have a strong impression on me even now. So that impression made him big. And all others became small compared to his stature.
Especially he one particular moment he says, my father looked like Neil Armstrong. He walks like him on the moon. Is it right? And See, thing is, it's actually matriarchal society came up, and uh, now I also now also believe women are the strongest gender in this world. Actually, men are weakest. Most of the men will hate me now onwards. And let's talk about your wonderful mother. And let's go later. Uh, she's very precious. And talk about your mother, and especially her silence. Speaking through silence is also a very strong weapon in the world.
Uh, I was very close to my mother. We used to discuss about literature a lot. She was a very ardent fan of British writers, particularly Thackeray, W. Jacob, George Eliot. He used to read a lot in three languages. But still, I feel that she was very alone. And actually, she was not communicating with me. Now I feel that my father was continuously communicating to me without any word. But my mother was continuously talking to me, but she was not communicating with me. She was very silent. See, a movie has a kind of aesthetics. If you watch a movie completely, after completing that movie, a single impression of a character, a visual, a single image of a character will exist in your mind. Sometimes it will linger in your eyes. That image is the representation of that particular character. So the impression of mother lingering in my eyes is she is sitting outside the house under the stars, extremely lonely, gazing in the sky. That image is actually recurring inside me, and used to dream that moment again and again. So I even feel that she was a very, very lonely woman. I cannot understand her even now. So I am not writing about her, but I am writing about about the ignorance of myself about her.
Yeah, always the sons and daughters are ignorant about their father and mother or parents. Usually that happens. Only after 60 we'll understand the value of them. And Sangeeta, there is a, if you as a translator and a reader, when a person goes through waves of suicide in his life, and how much it haunted you as a translator, because we'll talk about what happened later, but it actually haunted me whole night.
As a translator, translating this book was very difficult. There were days when I could only translate just a couple of paragraphs because it was too much for me. The experience was too much for me. Because in some sense, being a translator, I was actually walking along with Sir. I was his shadow. I was kind of, in some sense, experiencing what he experienced and what trying to walk in his very large footsteps. So that way, emotionally, it was very draining sometimes. The other parts when he writes about Nanjinadu or the part that broke off, all those things, it was very easy to translate. But when he talks about his intense experiences, especially about his personal experiences, traumatic experiences, it was very difficult.
So coming back to your mother, she's a voracious reader, and in one particular moment you say she never liked MT, and she never liked SL Bhairappa. That I can't take it. And Sharat Chandra or Bimal Mitra.
Yeah.
So Bimal Mitra. So whatever it is, I think she made a huge impact on you as a child. So that made you a writer. Do you agree?
Yeah. When I was a student of second standard, one teacher asked me what you are going to be. So every student said, I am going to be an engineer, a doctor, and thing. And I stood up and I said, I am going to be Vaikom Muhammad Bashir. And the teacher asked me, "Do you know who is Vaikam Madhubashi?" I said, "I don't know, but I'm going to be a Vaikam Madhubashi." Who said that? She asked me, and I said, "My mother told me I should be a Vaikam Madhubashi." She visited my home and met my mother, and they became very, very close friends later. And she told me that the event, the teacher, Madhuram teacher, she told me that even that I told her that I am going to be like a Madhubashi. So from the age of 5 or 6, the only dream I have, the only self-imagination about myself is being a writer. In a short period, I had a dream that I'm going to be a Vivekananda or Ramana, but it's a nonsense. I know now. So from the beginning until now, I'm a writer and nothing more.
Yeah, I sensed it because the thing is, in the first 27 years of your life, the journey you took, it was towards those two names. Even I don't want to utter those names. And suddenly you became a seer of literature. And you are so confident now, you say, I'll live forever. Because that confidence came from the experiences, whatever the good or bad or ugly experience you got from your father and a grandmother and your environment, that Nanjinadu, wherever it is, and plus the mother. Silently, she actually carved you as a writer. Is it so?
Yeah, actually, my mother wrote two short stories in Tamil in her innings. She wrote two short stories in Malayalam also. She never wrote anything after marriage. So it is her dream to be a writer. And she infused that dream into me. And actually, I am writing for her.
That's a great thing. And Sangeetha, especially when you look into, I'll go back to him about Viji and grandmother and everyone. I can go back to Chaitanya also because a lot of women they are there. And according to you, and all the women characters in this comes one after one, one comes, and every character, every person made an impact on Jayamohan, especially. They shaped him in different level from her daughter also in our Chaitanya. And so, what's your impression on that? Because you went through this actually thoroughly, more than me.
I don't know, actually. Um, I honestly don't know how, the women shaped the writer he is, apart from what the writer himself says in the book. But I have a feeling that when you open yourself to women, in a sense that, you don't close yourself, I think that that has an impact. And that is what Jayamohan sir narrates in the book. That is, there's a kind of an openness to experiences or a recognition of women as women. I think that actually shaped him as a writer. Maybe outsider's point of view, you should ask us.
Because I'm also a writer, I do have lived with one strong woman, and I'm living with two more strong women, my wife and a daughter. I know how they shape us.
I think
Is
you
it
are
not the
asking
same
the
scene?
wrong gender.
No. Is it not the same scene at your place?
So you're asking absolutely the wrong gender. You should ask other men.
Yeah, we will ask that in Q&A. And especially the relationship between your grandmother and a father. It's a very, very, if you lightly read it, is very cinematic. But if you intensely read it, it's a wonderful relationship. And very intense also. Very intense relationship with lot of bitterness in it. How do you look into it post 60?
See, whenever I look into elephant, I had a very strange feeling that it is not belong to this time. It is a Jurassic even period animal. Its movements, its body language, everything is very different to this. Like that, my grandmother belongs to an entirely different era. She not belong to the democratic modern period. So she was very, very strange at that time. When I was a very small boy, and I had a very vivid memories about her because I was listening her very with the awe and wonder because she was very strange because she walks like an elephant with a bold courage. She used to command people. She used to command my headmaster.
There is a scene in the book.
Yeah.
She walks into the school and
Once she was walking, she was traveling in a bus, and she saw somebody is beating somewhere. She immediately came down from that bus and began to participate in that fight. That's her character.
very, very interesting and a strong character.
She had nearly 8 or 9 criminal cases against her when she died at the age of 92. So that's her character. She always had a criminal eye to advocate her cases. So she belongs to a period when older women ruled Kerala. We call them Ammachis.
Matriarchal
Matriarchal. The kingdom ruled by women is called as Swarupam in Kerala, particularly in South Kerala. And we belong to Tirupapur Swarupam. And a matriarch was ruling our area. So she belongs to that period.
Even I had a taste of a matriarchal system because in coastal Karnataka we have a matriarchal system. The walls, women are the bosses of the house.
Coastal Kannada in South.
Yeah. In Karnataka we have that.
Oh, really?
Karnataka has to walk into. Once he gets married, he has to walk to women's house and live there.
In Kerala, before 1952, the entire property belongs to women, and men inherit no property. Men have to work and fight for some.
Now also in coastal Karnataka, in Bunds and some Jains, the property belongs to women.
Even now in Northeast, the entire property is actually belongs to women, and men used to work under them.
Let's go back to your grandmother. So, see, the thing is, she's a very strong woman and a very jizzy also. Always she used to carry folded legal documents in her, I think, bag.
She was a landlord, a typical landlord.
Typical landlord. Imagine a women landlord and especially the relationship between her and her kids. You have seen it and you have wondered it and you have a spectator for all those relationships, especially with your father.
Yeah, my father had great respect for her mother, for his mother, but she cannot understand him because he was craving for a self-identity. He was slowly creating his own home. She cannot understand my father. That's the problem with my grandmother. Actually, I cannot say nothing very clear about their relations because they are always very aloof to us. Because I am a small boy, I cannot understand the relation between them. The first thing is they won't look into each other's eyes. They won't talk to each other. They would talk to my mother. My father would talk to my mother, and my grandmother would talk to my mother.
That is a very common thing in his family. When his father wants to talk to him, he used to talk to his sister, Viji. And through her or through your brother, he used to convey everything to you, no? You never spoke directly with your father.
No, I talked to my father actually only 2 times in my whole life.
And see, this lady is such a strong woman, and once she decides to go back to her parents' house, after something happens in her personal life.
That's his mother.
His mother?
Yeah.
Yeah. And one more character. And she walks back to her mother's house and her brother tells her, "Who are you? Why are you coming here?" Then she asks one question. Isn't this house of Padmavati? And Padmavati is her mother.
My mother's mother.
So in if you look at any women character in this book, they are like this. They are very strong, and they are very very, what do you say, yakshis. Yakshis. All of them are yakshis. Tell us about that yakshi problem with you.
When I was translating, I couldn't find a word for Yakshi because the word witches is very culturally loaded. So I didn't want to. A witches, you have an image of a witch in black robes, in a hat, riding a broomstick, brewing potions. And that and Yakshi, they are entirely two different things. So I couldn't use the word witches in the book. In fact, the word witches is there only in the title. Inside, I have only used Yakshi because Yakshi is a very beautiful woman. She's extraordinarily beautiful with long hair, not like me. But and the thing that gives away is the her feet won't touch the ground, and she lives on top of the toddy palm tree, and she lures men. Men, especially men who are interested in her as a woman, lusts for her, and then the man disappears. Only a couple of bones are left at the end of the below the toddy palm tree. So this is the story of the Yakshi, and it happens in the book as well. But a Yakshi is a person whom every Malayali knows. So how do I introduce a Yakshi to a audience who may not know who a Yakshi is? Because in each part of India, I'm sure a woman who has extraordinary powers exist, but in each place it might be different. So I gave a footnote, which I generally don't like to give, but for Yakshi I have a rather big footnote explaining the context and talking about why I chose to use Yakshi as Yakshi, retain the word Yakshi as Yakshi, and not use witches.
Is this yakshi is a demon or a?
Actually,
She's a goddess.
in Indian mythology, there are a lot of demigods like Gandharvas, Kinnara, Kimpurusha, Ambara, Apsaras, Vidyadhara, and Yakshas are one among them. So Yakshi is the female of Yaksha. So almost in every temple, there will be Yakshis in the entrance, holding a flower in their hand. They are called Pushpa Yakshis. And Yakshis are actually very popular in Jain culture. Almost for every Tirthangara there is also a Yakshi.
Yeah.
For example, Paswanada has Ambika Yakshi, and the Kushmandini Yakshi for Vartamana Mahavira. Paswanada for Padmavati Yakshi, Ambika Yakshi for Adinaga. So there are a lot of Yakshis there. So maybe this Yakshi worshipping culture emerged in Kerala and Tamil Nadu through Jainism. So later these Yakshis are identified with folk deities. So nowadays in Kerala, a Yakshi is a folk deity with a Puranic tinge. That's the difference. So it's a mixture of classical culture and folk culture. Similarly, it is a mixture of exceptional beauty and exceptional vulgarity or terror. So that mixture is very much interesting. There's a very very complicated element in it. Yeah, the beauty and beast, the same person, is a thing, and she is a god, a demon and a god.
And a protector also.
Protector. So we had our own Yakshi in our ancestral. It is Chandbaga Yakshi. We had our own Yakshi temple inside our ancestral house in Natala, in my mother's house. When my daughter born, my elder mother told me that she must have Yakshi Prasada, the grace of Yakshi. Anyway, she is a girl, so she must have a Yakshi grace on her. So come to my ancestral house. Let's give her an offer, a sacrifice to the Yakshi, and the Yakshi should bless your female child. then only the female child will be very bold and strong in their character. So I did that ritual and got the Yakshi blessings for my girl child. And she is now a Yakshi person.
So Yakshi is going to become a publisher.
Yeah. My question is, so your culture, the southern Karnataka coastal culture is very close to Kerala.
Yes.
Is there Yakshi worship there in this place?
Yes. We have a same tradition, and we call it as Deva. Deva. And Devaru and Deva we call. Almost every houses will have their own Deva the Mane.
Female.
There will be a female.
Oh.
There will be, for example, we actually our family runs, Chapparike family runs one small Deva the Mane. There is a Yakshi called Marlichiku.
Oh.
It's everywhere. Women are God actually. Goddesses. And Mike, very important question for you is, there are a lot of unwritten things are here. Especially, I'm interested, and almost all of us are interested about your sudden disappearance from your home and your journeys towards Himalaya. You went everywhere. Within 27 years, almost you have roamed around like in different forms also. Sometimes you are a beggar, sometimes you are a worker, and sometimes you are something else, and sometimes you are a philosopher. Like that. Can you tell us a little more about, because you have not written it in English?
I wrote a separate book about the travels. It is called Purapadu, and it is being translated into English recently by my friend Visu, and it is going to be published very soon in English. It is about my travels as a mendicant or as a madman. To be precise, now I would refer myself as a madman, not a sannyasi. But I was deeply depressed and confused at that time. So those travels are entirely different from the subject of this book. So I separated the.
But certainly we are all going to buy that book, and don't worry about that. And we want to hear, see, especially when you are very young, then you just left your home. Where you used to go? What you used to do?
I left my home at the age of 90 and came back after 1.5 years, 2 years, and left again and came back after 1 year. And then I got a job in Kasaragod. And after that, I was continuously traveling throughout India. And still I am traveling.
No, I'm interested only before that 27. Not after that. After that, we know. So, is it also an enlightenment?
See, I left my home at 19 age. I traveled by train and bus throughout India without any money. I was a beggar, and I never begged. Another sannyasi will offer food for me. He would say, "See, here you can get puri, and you can get food. Tires are there. You can. I have multiple choice of food."
Big menu.
Yeah, actually, beggar never be hungry in India. Particularly, a sannyasi never be hungry. I stayed in big houses as a sannyasi. I used to taught Bhagavad Gita in many places. So I was revered. I was honored by people throughout my journey. So being a sannyasi is a luxury thing in India. I was never hungry for more than one day or one meal.
And there is a big house in this also. Can you remember it?
Yes, of course. That is when the girl proposed to Jayamohan for the first time, and he was frightened. You have to ask him the experience, because he was actually quite taken aback when the girl proposed to him.
Yeah, and recently an incident happened only 5 or 6 days ago. That girl called me after reading this book.
Oh my God. What is for?
She is now 61, and she called me. She's not a girl, that's what I'm trying to say. She's 61, she's living in Germany, and she called me. She said, I read this book, and the first time she's reading about her. She's a very ardent Christian, and she never did anything. She did that article, and she said the translation is good, and we had a small conversation. I wrote about it 2 days later.
And you, what about your love story? The real love story?
That's not a love story. That's a
A
story.
Madurai girl sending a letter and you are running towards it. It's okay. You have to read this. Buy it and read it.
On those days, I was imagining myself as a Vivekananda going to shoot the world. So I have no time for a woman.
But you went, spoke to her,
Yeah.
and you married her.
Later. Then I dropped the idea of being a Vivekananda and married her.
It's an amazing thing. See, the thing is, in one way, this is a very intense, serious book. And there are some other very funny things are also there in this book. And I don't want to reveal everything about this book. And let's move on then. Let's move on. And how much time we have?
15 minutes.
15 minutes. Okay. And the thing is, especially, I'm going out of this book now because recently I've been there in his house.
Yeah.
So, and you both are writers. 3 writers at home.
No, 4.
Oh, the last one also became writer.
My daughter is also writing.
I thought she's a publisher.
Publisher and writer also. She's writing.
Oh my God, 4 writers within the 4 halls is difficult. How are you managing it?
Actually, they are managing me.
It's very interesting when I went to.
Actually, it's an interesting thing. I was discussing literature and my future plans with my mother 40 years ago. Then I was discussing about my current novels and my plans with my wife. And now I am discussing about the writing and my plans to write with my daughter. Even today I talked to her about this current novel. And so I'm talking with the 3rd generation woman about literature.
If you go through this book, there are some very intense issues there. You talk about death, you talk about life, you talk about solitary life, and you also talk about the darkness.
Yeah, please. So I know
That is the other part of you.
Yeah, I know darkness very well. That's why I am the writer of light.
Yeah, I know it's very difficult to converse with you. And especially you, almost half a page you wrote about darkness in this.
Yeah.
Can you please, because it's very interesting for me, even I want to learn something about darkness from you.
See, if your language became lose it, and if your language became melted while I am approaching something, that's a real creativity. So I would say this is a creative work because in many places you can find the language becoming a strange, somewhat ambiguous thing while reaching some places. So while reaching light, the language becoming enlightened and lucid. While writing about darkness, the language became very ambiguous and complicated. That's the difference. Light is always very simple and straight, and darkness is very complicated and self-suspending thing. So what is darkness? Darkness is complication. And darkness is self-suspension. darkness is a kind of torment that we are creating ourselves. So almost all darkness and unhappiness in our life is actually creating for us. Okay? We are creating for us. For example, there is a famous quote in Sanskrit that no sorrow will be given to you unless you ask for it. Somewhere in your mind, you are craving for darkness and unhappiness, and that is gifted to you. So that's why while I am writing about darkness, I am inventing my darkness inside it, and how I am creating darkness. That's the invention of this book. While I am writing about the sorrows of the book, I always feel that I am enjoying that sorrow. Actually, I am writing with a passion about the sorrow. So darkness is a thing that created by humanity to torment humanity.
And if in this book there are some instances it really haunts you, especially the Jhansi railway station thing. And how did you cope up? Because you ran away from the railway station that night. You want to talk about it?
Yes, it was. That was one of the most difficult instances to just translate. So I can't even imagine how it must have been for Sir to experience it, because it was in some sense a kind of a commentary on life itself.
So we cannot say anything about
Yes.
that experience. We are just witnesses of that kind of events. We have to record it. That's the only thing.
You will be a witness for that. That's it. Because what happened, I have a submission for you. What happened is I was a journalist for more than 2.5 decades. I was writing about one particular village near Kadri in Andhra Pradesh, and there was a
You are referring about Pettabra?
no K. Pullakunda, and that was a village that traditionally, I can't use that word supplied, but traditionally more than 1,000 of every year there will be 200, 300 girls will be sent to all the brothels in the Bombay, Pune and Delhi. There's a chain, okay? At the end, police intervened, government intervened and everything happened. I went for a story there. And I'll take 2 minutes. I was talking to a lady who came back from that world, and she resisted in the beginning. I don't want to talk to who the hell you are. I said, I want to hear your story. Somehow I convinced her, a little bit of my broken Telugu and everything. And it was after she opened up completely, how that brothels and life and everything, why did she went to that and everything. And after all my interviews got over, she asked me, Anna, can I ask you one question? Okay, you can ask any question with me. And she, I'm a woman, for the sake of my family, for the sake of my parents, my kids, my sisters and brothers, I slept with 20 or 30 men every day. Is any man in this world can do this? Actually, I cried on that day in front of her. No one can do that. So women are the strongest, and women are the life of this world, I can say. And because I had a lot of experience like you also, but as a journalist, as not as a sannyasi or a seer. And coming back to the end of this book, because I think we are closing. 5 minutes is there. And are you going to write more like this, or is there any continuation for these books?
I wrote more articles in Tamil and Malayalam. apart from this book. Nearly, I think, article sufficient for another book is already written by me about my. It is collected as a collection, as a book as Nedum Padayora. It has a lot of life stories in it. Okay.
And
I am writing about events in my life.
But it is bits and pieces, not linear. We have to find it.
Linear life is not linear. How can we write autobiography as a linear? The only thing linear in a personal life is the time only, the calendar only. So if you are writing a work in a calendar order, it's not a creative work.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much for. And before I close and open up for the Q&A, what were you doing in 1984 in Mukambika? It is in Kollur.
Kollur, yeah. I used to visit many for various purposes to Kollur because I consider Kollur Mugambi as a matriarch like my mother's. So I used to visit Kollur. So before starting a novel on Mahabharata, about the mothers of Mahabharata, we and my friends visited Kollur and stayed there one night. And after that, I started that novel. So it was very close to me.
Close to you.
Yeah.
And you wrote.
And it's a Kerala temple, it's a culture. And the Tandra.
I don't agree.
Yeah. particularly the worship, the Tandra system is very close to Kerala.
But you wrote, you were in Kollur and begging there.
Yeah.
You were there. It's in 1984.
1984.
Do you believe in destiny?
No.
You don't.
If there is one, we cannot understand. We can understand it. We cannot grasp.
Because see, the thing is, 1984, I'm just 10 kilometers away from me. Chapparike is just 10 kilometers away from the Kollur. And after 40 years, we met. So that's the story I wanted to tell you guys. And
you might give me some coins at that time.
That's the story I wanted to reveal with you. And see, when I read it, 1984, I was begging in Kolluru and Mukambika. Then I was surprised. I was 16 and he was 22 at that moment, if I'm right. And we are just 10 kilometers away from each other, and we are sitting together now after 41 years. Thank you so much for your wonderful thoughts, and thank you, Sangeetha, coming from all along from Hyderabad for this. And thanks for the wonderful audience. And now the floor is open for the questions, and questions should be asked only for both of them.
The first question that I want to ask you is that, you mentioned that writing in Tamil is not very lucrative, and that really is disheartening to me as a Tamilian. May I know the reason why you think that this situation is there right now?
Because the readership in Tamil is very, very low, if the book selling ratio is 100 in Malayalam, it's only 20 or 15 in Tamil. We have at least maximum number of literary readers in Tamil Nadu is throughout world. Its maximum is 1 lakh. Out of 12 crore of people, we have only just 1 lakh people reading something. So we have to do business within this 1 lakh. So we cannot expect more. See, if you are living in a Tamil society, you can never meet another literary reader in your whole life. Really, you have to create your own circle. Then only you can find another reader.
Thank you for a wonderful session. And Jayamohan sir, I have a question from when you were writing this book in Tamil. You were writing big novels. You had written Vishnupuram and Puthiyedath. You are writing criticism. So you are writing very literary heavy work. And Malayalam is your mother tongue, but you are writing all this in Tamil. But when you were writing the memoir, you wrote it in Malayalam, which is your mother tongue. My question is, would you have at that point considered writing this in Tamil? Did you feel a comfort with Malayalam? Is that why you wrote it in Malayalam and not Tamil? That's one question. The second question has to do with the observations in the book about the matriarchal society in Kerala slowly becoming a patriarchal society. An observation that a lot of my Malayali friends tell me is that Kerala society today is very, very patriarchal. I don't know what Sangeetha feels about that. Is that true that this shift has really happened? Is there still elements of matriarchy in the Kerala society today? And personally, sir, do you feel that there is elements of patriarchy in you, and what do you want to do with it? Do you want to continue being in your father's footsteps, or do you think that is something personally one should grapple with? These are my
The first thing is, there is an interesting idea. You have to think about it, because it is like this. Limitation creates novelty in art. Limitation. For example, if you are making a play here, the stage is a major limitation, but it is the faculty, it gives a specialty to this play. So like that, art is actually created by limitations. I am very proficient in Tamil. You know that. I can easily handle any kind of nuances in Tamil. I know the Sangam literature Tamil very well, but I am not well versed in Malayalam. So while I am writing in Malayalam, that limitation created a separate style for me. And again, as I said earlier, this book is a personal conversation between me and my mother. Padmavati Amma was there to listen it. So I have to talk to her through this language only. That's why I wrote it in Malayalam. And that's why this book is very close to me. And another one book, Nirumbalaya, this book is very close to me because I wrote it in a very private language with a lot of limitations. And I have a theory for writing myself in Malayalam because I belong to the tradition of M. Govindan. You may have heard about him. M. Govindan is a major philosopher and giant in Malayalam. He started a movement called Not to Malayalam. That means original Malayalam. A Malayalam without Sanskrit or minimum Sanskrit. So I am a great follower of M. Govindan. Atu Ravi is a close assistant and read and student of M. Govindan, and I am a student of Atu Ravi. That's why I followed that way. So I never used much Sanskrit words in that text, and I used a lot of regional South Travancore words which I cannot use in Tamil. I used in Malayalam. So I created a very unique language in this text, and it is considered one of the major linguistic works in Malayalam. Still, a lot of writers used to write about the style of this work, and actually, you may have heard about this. These articles are made into a movie in Malayalam. Olimuri. My friend Madhubal directed the movie, and I wrote the script for that movie. So that's the reason I wrote it in Malayalam. So if I wrote it in Tamil, sometimes it may be more classical and elaborate and detailed, and I don't know what it will miss. Sometimes the personal talk with the mother may miss in Malayalam. And another thing about the patriarchal system. Yes, there is a great shift in Kerala's culture starting from 1952. And it ends at the introduction of Hindu Code Bill by Ambedkar. After that, the matriarchal system is legally abolished. So there is no matriarchal system there in Kerala. And after the abolition of matriarchal system, another system emerged naturally, that is patriarchal system, because men has to earn money, and they consider as the head of families, and men has to prove themselves as men. That's the problem of my father also. Naturally, they become patriarchs, but there is a great difference between Malayalam patriarchal system and Tamil patriarchal system. There great difference. Majority of Malayalis even don't know about it. See, almost every Malayali woman has her own property with her, her own asset. She is actually inheriting her father's and her family asset. Nearly 75% of the family asset is inherited by woman. See, take my sister. The almost 90% of the wealth earned by my father went to my sister. That's the system prevailing in Kerala now. So there is no material system. But still, almost every Malayali woman is wealthy and she had her own property. Even in the lowest level, she has some property there. But not in Tamil Nadu. Till 1984, in Tamil Nadu, woman has absolutely no family inheritance. Absolutely no right on family asset, right? Only jewels or some money given by father is the only property she had. So I was witnessing a lot of women, Tamil women, being abandoned by husbands and suddenly become orphans. I saw daughters of millionaires started to work in street shops for living. So that's not possible in Kerala. So yes, there is patriarchal system there, but there's a tremendous difference. So I, as a son of Padmavati Amma, Salashi Amma, I always strongly advocate the system of matriarchal system because in matriarchal system, there's very pleasant things are there. See, so matriarchal systems is not there in Kerala, but I was visiting Sugata Kumari, White Sugata Kumari. I dedicated one book to her. She was living with her three sisters in a single house. Hridaya Kumari, Sujata and Sugata Kumari living. All of them are very old. They have their own children, husband and grandchildren also. But their sisters live in the same house because they believe that sisters are a bunch of, so they can live. See, in Kerala, fights between women is very rare. You cannot compare it with Tamil Nadu. Fight with sisters, within sisters, fight within sister-in-laws. That's very, very rare, and it is considered very mean in Kerala. That's the continuation of matriarchal system. So I always I'll advocate for matriarchal system. That's a good system.
It is still there. 100% goes to the daughter in South Kerala.
Really?
Yeah. It is still there in South Kerala, especially Bunds and Jains. 100% property goes to women. And when men happily marry the women.
So even the continuation, the residue of matriarchal system is actually very useful for women in Kerala.
If I may add, I feel actually that they are both partly true. That is, women are powerful, but I feel that this also causes a kind of a tension between women who feel that they are empowered and men who will not accept that empowerment. So this tension is also unique to Kerala, is something that I feel. So while Sir is right when he says that yes, matriarchy has empowered women, yes, Malayali women are actually, you can actually notice the difference when you talk to them. Even from it is beyond class and beyond caste. You have that empowerment. But sometimes I joke with my students that men are a century behind in Kerala.
That's true. But that's a serious problem with it. That's it. If women are powerful in these days, naturally there will be family conflicts. Because men won't accept the supremacy or the individuality of women so easily. The entire Indian culture is training Malayali men to become a patriarch. So they cannot understand the individuality of their woman. So there are a lot of conflicts. And again, if woman has their own assets and the income, they usually they decide to separate very easily. They won't be slaves of men. So that's what's happening in Kerala, and that's quite natural.
Next question.
Hi sir,
Hi.
I'm from Coimbatore, Tamil Nadu. I've read your books on like Purapadu, and I felt like there were all the pieces to fall into the role of nihilism, like very sad things that happened to your life, and you somehow still managed to like go to the extreme opposite end, become a writer of like light, as you said. I follow your unified wisdom videos, and even that gives me like confidence. How do you make the transformation, and like what would be your advice, like if not to fall into that nihilism?
So I vividly narrated that transformation in this book. You can read it in this. Okay. Okay. So I cannot explain it very briefly in a conversation like this, but I felt that after the pinnacle of sorrow and desperation and the kind of extreme loneliness, I felt that here I am. Being here is the only solid truth I can know. So there's nothing more than that. Existence is the most beautiful thing in this universe. So every day I am advocating, I am addressing a lot of people, advocating this thing. Celebrate the day, celebrate the moment. It's a great gift for us. That's the only point I am insisting. So majority of our anxieties, majority of our worries are self-made and imaginary. That's the thing I learned very early. So actually I am thankful for the traumatic events I had in my young age, because I learned the basic lesson at the very young age.
So you just mentioned that writing had some therapeutic values for you, more like a catharsis, and one of the other things that you mentioned was that you always maintained a distance between the happenings and the events that is going on. So that helped you to record all the events, and because of the prowess that you have in the language, that you were able to create stories, spin stories, and that is the style of writing that you have. Because the only book that I have read of yours is Nuru Narkaligal, and I see that the same kind of a milieu that which you have written in this. It's about relationship, it's about your mother, about power, and all those kind of things. So these are the main themes that seems to be in all of your writings. Is there any other subject that you wanted to write and you have not written so far?
So my creative world is extremely big. So I wrote nearly 1.5 lakhs pages in Tamil. So the entire Tamil literature is actually equal to my personal literature writing. So you have to read a lot in Tamil, and you can find other words also.
Sir, do you think only a person who goes through the misery, who gets out of the society, can become as creative as you are? Somebody who is...
No, not so. So, see, Vaikam Muhammad Bashir had very deep trauma in his life, and he wandered throughout India, and he's a great writer in India literature. You can now find that kind of penury or sorrow in the life of Sir Ramakaran. But I consider him is equally great writer like Vaikam Muhammad Bashir. I travelled all the way from Kasaragod to Puttur to meet him, just to bow before him. So I admire Sivarama Karande, and His world is entirely different. So torment is not a condition, a precondition for writing. What you are inventing or what you are imbibing from the experience is more important. See, another example is there. You may heard about Tu Ramamurthy. Tu Ramamurthy. He's a Tamil. He had a very complicated life experience throughout his life. He was a freedom fighter, then a Gandhian worker. He worked among rural life. He worked among leprosy patients, and he had a different, strange experience in his life. And he wrote 2 novels. One is Kodisai and another one is, I don't remember. You cannot read that book. Very flat. No depth or emotional connectivity. So, what you are experiencing is not a thing. What you are getting, what you are imbibing from that experience makes you as a writer. And every experience is equally important for creative writing.
Good evening, Ji. We spoke about the darkness of the life, right? One other thing in our tradition is all our religions, particularly Shaivam and Shaktam, they also have a glorified version of the cosmic darkness. One of the famous, one of my favorite quote from Venmurasa is that நட்சத்திரங்கள் அனைத்தையும் தன் மடியில் பரப்பி அமர்ந்திருக்கும் இருள் from Kradam. Means there is the cosmic dark that keep all the stars in the lap of itself. So is that darkness and the darkness which a man inherits from his life, or he imagines and then invites into his life, is 2 different things? Or the darkness should be known, or that should also be known via a light?
That is an entirely different thing. We use a word is the darkness of yogi, the darkness of yoga. The darkness felt or envisioned by a yogi. There is absolute darkness. That is entirely different from the darkness what we are telling here in this discourse. This darkness is emotional and intellectual darkness that we have. That spiritual feeling of that darkness, that yoga darkness, or yoga tamas, that's the exact word, the yoga tamas, it's the darkness of the cosmos. Light is a very tiny thing in the cosmos, and the darkness is there everywhere. If you are following anything in this life to the infinity, it becomes dark. The yogi is actually sitting upon that darkness. So there is 2 kind of images in our culture. One is Yoga Maya, or Mahishasuramartini fighting with that Mahisha, that buffalo. She is actually fighting with that darkness. The second thing is Ganapati sitting on rat and mouse. That is also darkness. The Ganapati actually made that rat very small. The elephant is very big and rat become very small. So the darkness is there always. But we have to let it only for yogis. Only yogis can deal with that darkness. The Buddhists called it as Sunya. The Sunya word is there in our culture also. Sunya. We know that it is Sunya. So we are talking about a book here. Right? So what's important of this book in this universe? What is the role of this book in human history? So humans in this globe is not so not significant. And the entire globe is not significant in the Milky Way. And the Milky Way is not insignificant in the universe. So what we are talking about? Total nonsense. But we are talking about a book. So let that darkness to the yogis. we cannot deal it. So we are dealing with the elephant that we cannot control. So let us worship Ganapati, the Mangala Swarupa, which sat on that global, that cosmic darkness, and which makes that darkness very tiny.
Is there any more?
Yeah. So my question is on a lighter note, but I think it will relate to the title of the day. So in on the hidden video interview, you mentioned most women would do the stupidity of ignoring the first love, and you use the word virgin love of a girl. Can you elaborate on that idea?
No, I don't remember that exact words, but that's not the subject here. We cannot deviate from the discussions. Here we are going now.
வணக்கம் சார். ஸோ சமீபத்தில் காடு நாவல் நான் படித்தேன். ஸோ அதில் எனக்கு பிடிச்சது என்னென்னா, அதில் மலையாளமும் தமிழும் கலந்த அந்த நாவல். ஸோ அதை ட்ரான்ஸ்லேட் ஃபஸ்ட் டைம் எனக்கு தோணுச்சுன்னா, இது எப்படி இங்கிலீஷில் ட்ரான்ஸ்லேட் பண்ணுவாங்க, அதோட அந்த சோல் வந்து அப்படியே வருமான்னு எனக்கு ஜஸ்ட் தோணுச்சு. ஸோ அதே தான் நான் கேட்குறேன், உங்கள் படைப்பு இங்கிலீஷில் ட்ரான்ஸ்லேட் ஆகும்போது ஸோ எந்த பர்டிகுலர் ஆஸ்பெக்ட் வந்து அப்படியே போகுது, இல்லாட்டி அது பெட்டராக இருக்குது, அது எது ரொம்ப சேலஞ்சிங்காக இருக்குது, அது அப்படியே வரலைன்னு உங்களுக்கு அந்த மாதிரி ஃபீல் வருதா? இது
So actually, while we are reading a text, a novel or anything, actually we are creating our own text out of it. So it's a kind of translation. So any translation is a text created from another text. So it is not the replica of that original text. It's an independent text based on the original text. That's what called translation. See, Sujitra Ramachandran is here. She translated my Tamil work, Ezhamulagam, into English as Abyss, the Abyss. And that work was actually shortlisted for American Literary Translator Association Award. So how that work actually, I wrote that book in a very particular area slang, right? But she translated into it in English. It's an entirely different language. But she created her own text out of a text. And that is a kind of independent text. So the aesthetics, the life, the emotions, and the vision of a text is translated into English. The linguistic treatise, that cannot be translated. So in every creative work, there is a part which can be translated, and there should be a part, there naturally will be a part that cannot be translated. So if a work is completely translatable, it is not a good artwork. Yeah. If the work is not completely untranslatable, it is not also a good work. So we read Tolstoy, everyone through only translation. So translation is a creating a text into another language. So it can be translated. And there is a popular quotation in film world that anything which can be written can be made into a movie. Similarly, anything which is written in a human language can be translated to another language.
But it is the toughest job in the world. Translation is the toughest job in the world, because we both agree, because we are creative writers.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And sorry to say that we are out of time. And once again, thanks for Vishnupuram Literary Circle, Juggernaut Books, and Atta Galata. And we are going to see Jayamohan and maybe his new novel within, I think, August 8th, 9th, and 10th. There will be Brahma Literature Festival in Bengaluru, Koramangala. Please, you all be there with your family and friends, and you're going to meet all the stalwarts from the south, from all the languages. And I have not asked him, but he'll be here.
I used to attend a lot of literary festivals in these days, but personally, I'm not flattering Mr. Chapparike, but I feel the Brahma is the most pleasant experience I ever had as a professor, not in India, in abroad. It's a very pleasant experience to have chat with the Telugu, Kannada, and other writers. So it's a very pleasant experience. I invite everybody.
And I'm so proud that, see, thing is, at the same time, in BAC, we are talking about one Booker nominated South Indian book. And I always say the four languages, the South Indian language, the contribution of South Indian language to the world literature is far and above than any other language in this world. Let's be proud. Let's start reading our own mother tongue. Please read English books also. I don't mind. But please read in your own mother tongue and buy the books and read it. Once again, thank you so much for both of you. And thank you all. Have a wonderful weekend and see you again.